I saw an apparition of a woman.
She walked directly across the room in front of me.
He was shook up, traumatized by this experience.
In the window upstairs, he saw a woman standing there, looking down at him.
I was so frightened that I immediately turned around and left the building.
There are a handful of locations that hold more memories than most people will ever experience in a lifetime.
Memories that may be our only connection between the living and the dead.
By making these connections with our past, we can learn and reveal details of a once living population. We conducted enough research that we were able to identify each family that occupied Wampee over several centuries of habitation. Welcome to Wampee House on the beautiful Lake Moultrie in Pinopolis, South Carolina. I'm Pamela Nance, and this is Ashley Field, and we're Spirit Hunters of the South. I'm an archaeologist. Ashley is an historian.
Is that Anne Palmer Kane?
Is that the spirit woman of Wampee?
Yeah.
What did that do to your church? Prior to each of our paranormal investigations, we conduct thorough historical research to develop a timeline of occupancy to identify each family that occupied Wampee over several centuries of habitation. We use that information to speak with the spirits and collect our evidence.
If you could sit down and have lunch with any famous person in history and ask them any question you wanted to ask, that's what we based our methodology on. And we're tapping into these entities to ask them about their history, to reveal their history, or to rewrite history that was documented incorrectly. We're not going to try to prove to you that this location is haunted. The staff that works at this house and on these grounds and the people that have visited and stayed in this house have enough stories to prove that it's haunted. There were over 200 plantations built around Wampee. This is the location of Wampee Plantation in perspective to the lake that is actually existing now. All of these plantations you see under the blue area are underwater at this point, with the exception of one that is moved to Clemson University that they spared. So Wampee sits on the edge of the lake that all of these plantations reside under. This area was known for its rice production, its cotton production, and its indigo production.
Miss Ann, little girl's been seen around the house. Is she here?
Kayla. How old are you, Kayla? What's your age? John Stewart was the original owner of Wampee. John settled there after he was given a land grant by Sir James Colleton. The EVPs that we captured about the Stewart family indicate that we spoke directly to John.
My name's Ashley. What's your name?
John.
We also made contact with Caleb, who we believe is John Stewart's grandson.
Caleb? Who's Caleb?
Are you in the Stewart family? Is that your last name? What's your first name?
Over time, Stewart added additional lands to his holdings and ended up with several thousand acres, and Wampee Plantation was born.
Say it so we can hear you.
Caleb, are you ready to go?
Yes, Grandpa.
Was your daddy Mr. Stewart? Is it Charles?
John Stewart died in 1715 and left the house and land to his widow and his sons John II and Charles. Are there any Revolutionary War soldiers in this room? During the Revolutionary War, the British moved their campaign to the south in December of 1778. This was known as Cornwallis's Southern Strategy.
Who's in the room?
As Cornwallis moved into the area, he was met with Patriot resistance. And this pretty much converged around the area of Wampee. What did you do to protect this place during the war? So you can only imagine what the residents must have endured during this time.
Open the damn door! Hurry up!
Tell us about yourself.
What happened?
He's been shot in the leg.
How did you die?
Are you a patriot or a redcoat? The British successfully defeated the Patriots at the Battle of Moncks Corner. General Lincoln was essentially run out of South Carolina along with the troops, and it was left up to the local militia, which consisted of the farmers and the men in the area, to step up and defend their land.
Get ready. John, do you have any medical equipment? Yeah, turn it over, saw. I got one, saw.
Stop! Right into the
It's either your leg or your leg.
No, please, please,
Bring him, he can bite down on it.
Pinopolis, South Carolina is located in the plantation belt of South Carolina. That plantation belt started in North Carolina and ran south all the way down to Georgia. This is where the rice industry took place, cotton industry, and the indigo industry.
We went outside to a little building that was known to be part of the original plantation. It's a small storage shed, and we decided to conduct part of our investigation in that area of the yard.
We had asked about cotton production in the area and on that particular plantation. The reply we got was, yes, ma'am.
Did you raise cotton?
When you listen to the EVP, the dialect is an African dialect, leading us to believe that it was probably one of the slaves of the plantation.
Do you sell the cotton? How much money do you get for it?
We were curious about the price of cotton and what kind of money it entailed with all their cotton production. When we asked about that, we received an EVP that states 7. We believe 7 to be $70 for a bale of cotton. When we did the research on pricing of cotton in the 1850s, it was 16.1 cents per pound. A bale of cotton actually would weigh 228 pounds, making that bale of cotton around $66.24 average. So we think that this EVP is actually dated to the year of around 1850, 1860. We wanted to know if we could find any information about an overseer because there's no documentation. These men were going to run these plantations for the owners. They had a lot of responsibility. You could not be a stupid person and manage a farm that was thousands of acres. When we asked, we got the reply of Philip.
Who's the overseer? What's the boss's name? Philip.
We got a reiteration of Philip and Angel. Angel maybe being another overseer, but we definitely know there was a Philip at Wampee.
While Ashley and I were investigating, we really felt a strong presence of someone nearby.
It's that creepy feeling you get when you feel like someone's watching you, but you're not sure who and you don't see them. When we reviewed our photos later, we were shocked to find that in one of them, you can actually see the man sitting in what looks like an old carriage or wagon.
So given the fact that so many families with children would have come in and out of Wampee, it's not surprising that over the decades, many people have reported hearing children's voices and laughter on the grounds of Wampee.
This particular day, it was my day to wash dishes, actually. We take turns. And I heard children laughing outside. I looked out the window to see if I could see any children, but I didn't see anything. So I went back to washing dishes again, and then I heard laughter again. And I thought, you know, I need to check this out. So I walked outside onto the porch. At that particular time, I still heard laughter. But as soon as I stepped off the porch onto the brick walkway, the laughter stopped. So I looked around, trying to see if I could see signs of children. There was no children. So I turned around, walked back into the kitchen, and as soon as I stepped foot into the kitchen, I heard the laughter again. This particular day, we had to clean the Wampee House. We had guests coming in, and actually, I was in this particular room right here where, with this bed right behind me, I had made that bed up. I had walked out of the room and realized that I had left something in the bathroom. So when I re-entered this room, I looked, and on the corner of the bed, it looked as if someone had sat down on my bed. So I asked a fellow employee that was in here with me, did you happen to kneel on the bed or sit on the bed while I was out? And she said, no. I said, well, somebody sat on my bed, messed the bed up. Another day, same bedroom, the same bed. I made the bed up, came back in to do a walkthrough to make sure everything was fine and perfect. There was a handprint and a knee print on the bed. And I thought, you know, they're really playing jokes on me now. They're really trying to get to me today. For some reason, just in this particular bedroom here, something is trying to tell me, leave my bed alone. Don't mess with my bed.
During our investigation, we decided to try to tap into these children to see if we could identify who they are. And so we spent some time in the upstairs bedroom where the little girl is reported seen, and we actually captured some evidence which indicates that her name is Sarah.
Is this the room with the little girl? Can you tell us your name? What's the cat's name?
So we decided to stay up in the room that the little girl had been spotted in. And everything was fairly normal at the beginning of the night, but things started getting kind of strange as the night went on. Probably the best story that we can come away with is one that happened to Pam in particular.
Around 2 o'clock that morning, I was awakened by someone climbing in the bed with me. At first, I thought maybe something had scared Ashley and she had decided to get in bed to find some comfort, but I looked over. Ashley was sound asleep in the bed next to me, but I could still feel the presence of a body next to my back, and it felt like a small child.
And all of a sudden, the shower comes on in the adjoining bathroom, and it was that moment that's almost surreal where Pam and I look at each other and we had to verify we were actually hearing what we were hearing. So I got up and went in the bathroom. No one was in there, and I shut the shower off. It was pretty strange.
The strangest story that we've heard occurred in the bedroom across the hall, and this story was told to us by Willard Strong.
Santee Cooper, the state-owned electric and water utility here in South Carolina that owns the Wampee House and is on Lake Moultrie, periodically we're required to have dam failure exercises, and this occurred in the mid-1990s. We had one. A man named Greg, who worked for the South Carolina Emergency Management Division in Columbia, came and presided over this meeting. And that morning when the meeting started, he said, "Welcome to our dam failure exercise. Let me tell you what happened to me last night." And of course the room got very quiet. Everyone listening intently as he said he was asleep in his bed here in this room in the middle of the night, and he felt something warm brush across his arm. He looked up and saw a floating head. He said that this floating head got smaller and smaller and smaller and disappeared into the ceiling. He was obviously very traumatized by this and told this in front of about 100 people.
So for many years, the most prominent story as far as a haunting coming out of Wampee is that of the spirit woman.
I was finishing up, trying to gather up the cleaning supplies that I needed to return to our laundry room, when I saw the spirit woman. She looked as if she had been sitting on the edge of the bed. She stood up. She walked directly across the room in front of me and disappeared into the next room, which at the time was a sitting room. 6 months later, my youngest son was coming to pick me up. He parked in the parking lot in front of the Wampee House. In the window upstairs, he saw a woman standing there, looking down at him. And he said he stopped in the middle of the road because it startled him. And he thought, well, maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me. He said, but the longer he stood there, he realized that it was a woman watching him. When he came into the kitchen where I was at, he asked, "Mom, do you have guests staying in the Wampee House tonight?" And I looked at him, I said, "Son, the Wampee House has been closed for renovations since the end of October, and this was the middle of December." It really startled him. He said, "Well, Mom, there's actually somebody upstairs right now."
What's the woman's name that looks out the window? Is that Ann Palmer Kane?
Is that the spirit woman of Wampee?
Yeah.
We found information which indicates that Anne went to Wampee to live, to care for her aging grandmother. So we're thinking that the apparitions that many people report in the upstairs window, on the front steps of Wampee, inside the front door, on the landing, are actually Ann Palmer Kane.
My camera is set up to shoot sequential, 3 shots at a time, rapid succession. Pam was sitting up on the bed in front of the window where the woman has been seen, and I was sitting in the floor, and I turned and shot the bottom of the bed, which is what you see in the photograph, and Pam's legs are coming off of the bed, and you see the shadow that came in those 3 shots that started off low, moves up, and then it's off screen. So there was a shadow figure that we weren't even aware of because we were actually sitting in the dark.
It's important, anyone who sees Wampee the way it is now, to realize how different it was when I was here over 65 years ago. Pinopolis was basically undeveloped. It was a very stark, frightening sort of situation. As I looked up, I saw an apparition of a white-clad woman. She had sort of a chiffon gown draped over her. I could see part of her face and her arms and her feet as if she were suspended in the air. I had never heard stories of the Wampee ghost. There was nothing preconceived. This was my first experience. I was extremely frightened. Had no desire to pursue it any further. I quickly left and never told that story again until 60 years later, when I began researching and writing the book on the history of Pinopolis.
After Pard's visit, the house fell into disrepair for decades, until Santee Cooper purchased the home and refurbished it into what you see today. As time continues, the experiences in our lifetime become only the echoes of the past.
All we have is now. Use it wisely and be aware of the imprint that you leave on time.
Because you never know who might be listening. We're Spirit Hunters of the South, Ashley Field and Pam Nance bidding you good night.